I sat in my room, drawing a picture of the birthday cake Grandma and I had shared. It was one of the best days of my life, filled with laughter and love. I carefully added a shiny red strawberry on top. When Grandma saw my drawing, she smiled and said, "You're really good at this, just like a professional." Her praise made me feel proud. At that moment, I had no idea how much I would need her love in the coming days when everything else in my life felt empty. My name is Nadine, and I'm 28 years old. I've always loved drawing and reading books. By day, I worked as an office clerk at a small company, but at night, I would draw or write in my diary, posting my comics online. It made me happy when people liked my work. It was my escape, my way of dealing with the loneliness in my life. Growing up, I was always compared to my younger sister, Flora, who seemed perfect in every way. Flora was 3 years younger than me, but everyone adored her. She had beautiful eyes, flawless skin, and a bright smile. People often called her an angel. My parents loved her more than anything, and they always gave her all their attention. I felt left out, like I didn't matter. No matter how hard I tried, I could never be good enough. I became the disappointment in their eyes, while Flora learned how to use their love to her advantage. If anything went wrong, it was always my fault. If something broke, Flora would say I did it. If money went missing, she would blame me. Even though I tried to defend myself, my parents always believed her. They saw me as the bad one, the jealous sister. It was like living in a nightmare where nothing I did was ever right. But no matter how bad things got at home, I could always find comfort at Grandma's house. She was the one person who truly loved me. Grandma's house was my safe place. No matter how bad things were at home, I knew I could go to her. She never judged me. She welcomed me with open arms. I remember one time when I had been kicked out of our house again. I went to Grandma's, and she saw a drawing I had done on the back of a flyer. She smiled and told me, "You have real talent, Nadine." She then gave me a set of colored pencils and high-quality paper for my birthday. It was the best gift I had ever received. My parents didn't understand why I spent so much time at Grandma's. They said it wasn't good for me. But as I got older, they started ignoring me completely. All their attention went to Flora. It was as if I didn't exist to them. They only gave me the basics: food, clothes, and a roof over my head. There was no love, no affection. By the time I was in middle school, I had completely given up on getting any love from them. But deep down, I still hoped that one day things might change. In my 3rd year of middle school, my hopes were crushed. My parents told me they couldn't afford my school fees because Flora needed money for her entrance exams. I was shocked. They had the money. They just didn't care about me. I felt invisible. But when Grandma heard this, she was furious. She said, "I'll pay for your schooling. Come live with me." I wanted to refuse, but seeing her tears made me change my mind. I hugged her, and we both cried. I was so grateful. With Grandma's help, I was able to attend high school. I worked part-time during the day and studied at night. It wasn't easy, but I was determined to make something of myself. Grandma told me I didn't need to work, but I wanted to support myself. I wanted to show her I could stand on my own. After high school, I found a job at a small company and moved out of Grandma's house. She had given me the courage to make it on my own, and I would never forget that. But even though I was out on my own, my parents still didn't care about me. They never contacted me, not even during the holidays. They completely cut me off from their lives. It hurt, but I had grown used to it. I had learned to live without their love. Then one day I got a letter from Flora. She was getting married and she had invited me to the wedding. I hadn't seen her in years, and I wasn't sure if I should go. But I felt like I had no choice. She was my only sister. As the wedding day approached, I was filled with mixed emotions. I had spent so many years apart from my family, but now I was being asked to be a part of their world again. It made me feel nervous and uncertain, but I also saw this as an opportunity to show them I wasn't a failure. I had built my life on my own. Maybe, just maybe, they would see that I had succeeded without them. On the day of the wedding, I drove to the venue early, trying to calm my nerves. The wedding venue was beautiful, like something out of a fairy tale. It was more like a castle than a wedding hall. When I entered the family room, I saw my parents and Flora in her wedding gown. I barely managed to greet them. Flora turned to my mother and said, See, I told you she would come. My mother shrugged like it didn't matter. And my father looked at me like I was a stranger. I could tell they weren't happy to see me, but I didn't expect what came next. Flora sneered and said, "You actually showed up after dropping out of middle school?" Her words hurt, but I had expected them. What shocked me more was how my parents joined in. My mother laughed in a mocking way, saying, "You haven't changed, still so thoughtless." My father, looking surprised, stared at me coldly. I stood there, feeling small and invisible. I had hoped for something better, but their indifference was even worse than I imagined. I had hoped they would see how far I had come, but instead, they saw only failure. That's when I couldn't hold it in anymore. I raised my voice louder than I ever had before and asked, "Did you really resent me so much that you had to pretend I was dead?" The room went silent. My parents' faces went pale, and my sister stood up, trembling with anger. I didn't care. I had to speak the truth. I told everyone what had really happened, how Flora always blamed me, how my parents had neglected me. The guests were shocked, but I was done hiding the truth. "I'm Nadine, the bride's sister," I said, trying to stay calm. "I wasn't invited here because of who I am. I was invited because my sister and parents wanted to pretend I was dead." The room was full of gasps. People whispered, and my parents tried to make excuses. But Grandma, who had always been there for me, stood up. "How disgraceful," she said in a strong voice. "Nadine is my granddaughter. You've treated her like dirt." Her words made everyone stop and listen. Flora tried to deny everything, but the truth was already out. I wasn't afraid anymore. I had spent so many years in the shadows, trying to please my parents. But now I stood tall. Grandma stood beside me, holding my hand. "Let's go home, Nadine," she said gently. I nodded. We left the wedding, and I realized that I didn't need my family's approval anymore. I had my own life now, and it was enough. Grandma's love was all I needed, and that was what mattered. After we left the venue, I sat with Grandma at her kitchen table, enjoying donuts she had made for me. I felt peaceful, like I had finally found my place. The past no longer controlled me. I was free. I had made something of myself, and I was proud of who I had become. My illustrations gained attention, and my life was now a beautiful story of resilience. Grandma smiled at me, and I knew I had everything I needed. I was finally happy, and that was all that mattered.